What if I told you that you could brew a 600-year-old mead? It's called a Bochet, and it's a French medieval mead that was reclaimed from history in the 20th century. In recent years, it has become a phenomenon of the modern homebrew space and even in commercial lineups. Modern makers classify a Bochet today as any mead where the honey portion of the must has been intentionally cooked, caramelized, or charred prior to dilution and fermentation. Bochet's can be crafted with complementary spices and fruit additions and can finish in a range of ABVs. And I'm going to stick pretty close to the recipe from 1393, because what better way to revive and relive a bit of history than actually making it today? Before we get started, make sure all of your equipment has been properly cleaned and sanitized. We may be making a medieval mead, but we should still use safe modern brewing practices. All right, let's get into it. When making a medieval mead, it sure helps to dress the part. Here's the recipe that I'm going to be following today, and the goal here was to try to stay as close to that 1393 recipe as possible. Based upon this recipe, it's likely our mead will finish out around 5% ABV or a little lower. To cook our honey today, I have dug out ye old hot plate, and it did the job just wonderfully. I don't have a cauldron, so a cast iron Dutch oven that has seen better days will do. You can see that my honey has crystallized, but because we're cooking it, it melts down no problem. A note on safety. So we've got some trivets and some safety gloves. Polyester sleeves are no good for Bochet making. I also found some excellent eyewear. All right, so we're almost at the 5-minute mark here. Things are moving along pretty quickly, and now we're getting some foam on the top of the surface. You can see that it started to boil between 5 and 10 minutes. There's a good amount of foam on the surface, and now you can see that it's starting to turn color. It's rolling vigorously, and there's quite a lot of steam. It's super hot at this point. We're at about 10 minutes here, and now 15. And now we're at 20. I ended here. This is somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes, and you can see that it's a nice copper color. Sleeves down. Here is the caramelization time lapse. We have 5 minutes, 10, 15, 20, and 25 to 30. Now that it's started to cool, the foam has come down, and here's my heated water that I'm going to be adding. This was about 12 cups in total, and I made sure to stir after every couple additions. It's important to stir everything until the honey is dissolved completely and everything is mixed. I put the lid on it and left it to cool overnight. The next day, we're ready to make our mead. Token cat for luck. This is the cup that I will be rehydrating our yeast in. The yeast that we're using today is Safale SO4. It's a great ale yeast, and again, I think a good candidate for a Bochet. And we'll just rehydrate there with a couple ounces of spring water. I decided to simply use a piece of cheesecloth for my spice bag. Here are my cloves, my seeds of paradise, and my elderberries. I'm making a 1-gallon batch, so here's my carboy and my funnel. I thought it might be easiest to strain the liquid through the cheesecloth with the spices. However, everything got plugged up, so unfortunately I had to amend things slightly. I chose to keep the spice bag in the funnel, which allowed the liquid to flow through, but still came into contact with the spices. This was a compromise that I think worked well. I had to top off my spring water a little bit by adding an extra 2 cups. I gave it a good stir, pushed the spice bag in. Now we're adding our rehydrated yeast, stirring again, and closing everything off with an airlock. And then we leave it for a month and see what happens. As suggested in the recipe, I'll be sure to take the spice bag out after 3 days so that the Bochet's flavors don't get too intense. Okay, a few footnotes here. Because this was an attempt to replicate a medieval recipe, I really tried to avoid using any of my modern equipment or even brewing science. That means no hydrometer to check our initial gravity or nutrient additions to support the yeast activities. Whether it stalls or finishes out, it'll be fun to try anyways. Thanks for joining me on this medieval mead adventure. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss part 2 of making a medieval mead. And may mead be on your table.